there, everyone. Welcome to Cisco's Cybersecurity Insights broadcast. We have an amazing 20-minute session ahead of us. As you all know, organizations are under attack and security breaches are constantly making headlines around the globe. And today's global community of hackers is creating advanced malware and launching it into organizations through a variety of attack vectors. So today, we're going to talk about incident response and advanced threats. And no other guy that could talk more about this than one of our subject matter experts, Dean DeBeer. Hi, Dean.
Hey, how you doing,
Hello.
Ian? Good to see you,
Welcome
man.
to the show. And,
Thank you.
Before we begin, tell our customers and our viewers what do you do for Cisco?
Sure, absolutely. So today I function as CTO for Advanced Threat. We're a group within the security business group at Cisco. Our focus is on endpoint, email, web, and threat intelligence, as well as other elements within that portfolio today.
Great. Now, so you talk about your coverage, right? Can you tell us more and describe the current portfolio of Cisco's advanced threat solutions and products?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a couple of flagship products, one being AMP for Endpoints, which is our endpoint detection and response product. So think endpoint deployment with cloud intelligence. The good thing here is that through a product like this, we're able to look at trends globally that we see across endpoints around the world and use that to better defend those organizations. And this is all done through a number of different techniques. Everything from machine learning and data analytics all the way through to in-memory exploit prevention techniques. So that's one of our flagships.
Yeah.
Email and email security is obviously a big issue, right? I mean, you see a lot of things coming through. Email is attack vector, whether it be a link that someone is spamming you with or an attachment. So the email security appliances and cloud email security is a big part of our portfolio. We tie that in to the rest of the portfolio. It works in conjunction with the endpoint product. We also have our web proxy service, which is the WSA platform, web security appliance. And this is your classic web proxy. We use intelligence and data from, again, the same the portfolio that I've mentioned, as well as the Talos group or the Talos intelligence group that are part of the SPG. Ancillary to these products, we have a number of other products. Cognitive threat analytics. Cognitive are a team of machine learning experts out of Prague, and their job is to apply a bunch of detectors and classifiers to web proxy logs. And in doing so, find those things that you wouldn't detect otherwise. They have the ability to look into, to analyze encrypted traffic and look for patterns within encrypted traffic to determine if it's malicious or not, without actually having to open up the envelope of that traffic. On the intelligence and the malware analysis front, we have ThreatGrid, which is a dynamic analysis and static analysis platform. And what we do with ThreatGrid is analyze in excess of about 1 million unique files a day, determine whether they're malicious or not. And then beyond that, we take the data that's produced and we use that to power our entire portfolio. So whether it be next-gen firewall or the IPS product lines, AMP for Endpoints, the email services that we use, Meraki is integrated with us, and pretty much the entire portfolio. And then we have a new product that is designed to tie all of these together, called Visibility, and I'll talk about that a little later. And on the data analytics front, we have StealthWatch and StealthWatch Cloud, which is really advanced machine learning and analytics applied to NetFlow logs within your organization. And again, that's the entire portfolio.
Great. Now, this seems to be an old news, right, about incident response. With the public visibility of all these attacks happening, right, making it to headlines, and now it's becoming more of mainstream and a necessity for organizations. Are we doing something in terms of integration? What are the capabilities or features that we're doing, with our products and solutions around this?
Absolutely. So, the nice thing about the Advanced Threat Solutions group at Cisco is we're all subject matter experts. We all come from startups. We've all been in the field. We've all worked as consumers of product and not just builders of products. My background, for example, is actually incident response and malware analysis. So we take that expertise from across the teams. We spend a lot of time with our customers. And we look at building solutions around the problems that we see in field. We don't try to come up with solutions and then find problems to solve. We tend to go and hunt for those problems and then look at good solutions. And you'll see this across the portfolio. The endpoint product, for example, AMP for Endpoints, is designed specifically around the needs of the responder. What happens when you have an infection in your environment? Can you reach into your environment, determine who was infected, when they were infected, how they were infected, and quite honestly, how long have they been infected? Is it a single host that is infected, or is it a large group of hosts in your environment that are infected? So we're looking at ways to improve both the analytics within the products, as well as the user interfaces and the workflows around those products to solve for that. And that's where we talk about how we tie products together. Email tied in with endpoint. Could we determine that infected host actually received the attachment that was executed from an email? If so, who else received that email? So we work to answer questions like that as part of a natural response workflow or methodology.
Yeah, I heard a buzzword around workflow, right? So, and I'm going to jump into my next question. So can you give us some more examples on how the work that you're doing is streamlining the IR process for...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned earlier, we have a couple of new initiatives within Advanced Threat and within the security business group as a whole. Right now, as part of the Advanced Threat Solutions product line, we have a new beta running called Visibility. And what Visibility is a way to operationalize those workflows that I mentioned, right? So any incident responder is going to sit down and, they're going to have a series of runbooks or playbooks that they're going to trigger depending on what information they've received, whether they're receiving it from an FSISAC or a flash bulletin from the FBI that says, hey, by the way, we know this hash to be malware and you should hunt for it in your environment, or it's an alert from one of our products that is based on the Talos threat intelligence data set, right? Yep. So our goal is, can we take that starting point, whether it be going hunting for something or a triage model, and then start building workflows around that? And that involves a lot of different things that you'll see appearing in the Visibility platform, right? It's data aggregation and enrichment, pulling in content from multiple sources, aggregating and normalizing that data to determine, how large that event or incident is. Do you need to escalate? Yep. And how impacted you are. And then it goes all the way through to enrichment. And enrichment being, the data that we use from, third parties, from Talos, from, Cisco as a whole. Can we use that to better describe what we're seeing? Yep. Can we wrap context around what we're seeing? And by doing so, can we speed up the process by which an incident responder can remediate? So you'll hear terms thrown around. We often use mean time to detect and mean time to respond. And it's a very DevOps thing, right? Can we fix a problem? Yeah. We apply that to the work we do as well, right? So if we can, every time we do something, if we can just incrementally reduce the time to detect and ensure that it's a true positive, and then when it comes down to response, can we reduce the time it takes to respond? And can we actually track this as a meaningful metric? Because organizations today, especially the ones that we work with, that covers an entire gamut of knowledge, experience, and expertise, right? Yeah. You have organizations with teams of 50 or 100, and we're really there to support and enhance what they're doing. And then you have organizations of 1 or 5 guys that are defending just as many critical assets, but they don't have the resources. So things like Visibility are really designed to help drive the workflow for both the small organizations and then the automation aspect through APIs for the larger organizations.
Yeah, I was about to emphasize on the automation part, right? Because no matter how small the team is, if it's automated, then it's easier to kind of execute on things.
Absolutely.
And I'd like to emphasize on the data intelligence that you shared, right? I think that's one of the key and the most important factors that organizations should look at, the threat intelligence that you get from solutions.
Absolutely. Now, look, threat intelligence has been thrown around for years. It's a very broad topic, right? And people will describe an IP address being given to them by, as I mentioned, the FBI as intelligence, right? Yeah. So we're taking a slightly different approach to it. The great thing here is that we have a wealth of expertise from the Talos intelligence group.
Yep.
Within Advanced Threat ourselves, we have our research and efficacy teams whose job is really to mine our data, do reverse engineering and malware analysis, and a lot of data analytics to produce content and context around that content, right? So it's not just, hey, this is an IP address, or this is a domain, or this is a hash, or a mutex, but all right, what is the verdict and the judgment associated with that? Is it informational? Is it malicious? When have we seen it? How often has it been seen by other data sources? Do I know what it's related to, right? So it's one thing to say, I know this hash to be malicious, but it's another thing to say, I know this hash to be malicious and it's related to Locky ransomware campaign. And oh, by the way, here are the domains that we've seen contacted by this campaign.
Yep.
So when you apply that to our data and our environment, we're now allowing people through products like visibility and actually integrated in our entire portfolio to answer those questions very quickly, right? And that's the trick, right? Looking at something saying, okay, I see the impact. Now I know the criticality associated with that event, right? Do I escalate, or can I hand it off to a tier 1 analyst to handle?
Yeah. So I heard about integration and the critical of things. So this being critical to the effort, can you describe that more into details, like the integration part of things?
Absolutely, and this is actually a larger security business group initiative. This APIs are critical today, right? You'll see folks like Gartner and others, make mention of the fact, quite candidly, if products don't have APIs, move on to another product, right? So everything we do is designed around APIs. The same APIs that we use to build, analytics or interfaces into our products are the same APIs that we make available to our users. So it allows for two things. One, we can get really creative in how we integrate things together. And, for example, we'll have the email security appliance being able to submit content to ThreatGrid, query ThreatGrid for verdicts and analysis on that, but at the same time, use the data produced by ThreatGrid's analysis to feed off into another service, all through APIs. The exposure of those APIs to the users allow the more advanced organizations that are building their own interfaces, doing their own analytics, to simply query those systems directly for the content data data needed to do that. This push, it's going to be one of those things that are ongoing, right? As we develop, we need to improve on APIs, and it becomes a performance issue and a scalability issue. And the trick is, can we really truly tie our entire portfolio together in such a way that you create an infrastructure that is, quite honestly, positioned to strengthen itself by the data it produces.
Yeah, I like the slide that we showed earlier about architectures, right? Not point products. It's important that it's integrated, it's sharing information amongst each other rather than working in silos. And I would jump into threat intelligence. Let's go back to threat intelligence and how you think threat intelligence and content would play, a huge part in identifying incidents. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. Again, there's couple of different ways incidents come about, right? Hopefully you never get told by somebody else that you have a problem, right? And you can determine and detect that problem yourself. Effective use of intelligence throughout a portfolio of products, whether it be Cisco or others, right? We need open architectures to be able to share between platforms. If someone over here, for example, we're sitting on the show floor and we see a lot of our partners out here, we have to ensure that we get data to them. And, that's especially critical when it comes to, intelligence. If, for example, Talos, come up with an information on WannaCry, which was, the ransomware worm that we saw, right? We need to be able to ingest that into our portfolio of products. And at the same time, any events that we see or that are associated with that, we need to be able to share with other products outside of our portfolio, and not just in and amongst our portfolio, right? So if I just look at our portfolio as an example of how we would do something like this, let's assume I see an email coming in. I decide that attachment associated with that email is unknown. It's never been submitted before. The disposition associated with that hash of that attachment is unknown. But it falls within a set of file types that we want to analyze, right? Because they're traditionally used to deliver malware. It could be a Word document with a macro, for example. That goes off. We then automatically submit that to our ThreatGrid appliances or the cloud, where we do analysis on that, right? And this is both static and dynamic analysis. We're looking at thousands of different indicators on that file.
Yep.
If we convict that file, we then have the ability to do a number of things. One, we update our, the AMP disposition cloud, which is, think of it as one of our central sources of truth. We have a lot for this type of data, right? At the same time, we're providing information back to the email appliance that submitted to us saying, hey, we know this to be malicious, quarantine it, check and see who else this information was sent to. Now, we don't just stop there, right? That's a single organization.
Yep.
If that organization now is using our next-gen IPS, and OpenDNS or the Cisco Umbrella platform, right? We can extract the domains that were queried and update a block list in Umbrella so that anybody else that may communicate with that, it might be a mobile device, it might be someone bringing in a laptop from home, it might be an unmanaged device, right? We can now prevent outbound communications to those command and control servers using OpenDNS.
Yeah.
If it came in through a different vector and not email, we can determine that file passing in through perhaps a drive-by or watering hole attack, as a web vector, right? We can catch it at that point. We then can push this down and query for all the artifacts produced by that across our entire endpoint infrastructure to say, hey, you know what, perhaps it was a different hash or a different file. Maybe it wasn't a Word document. Maybe it was a PowerPoint that was used to deliver the same malware. Let's go and hunt for the artifacts and the characteristics associated with that across our infrastructure, right? Yep. So we can take an individual event and build an entire incident from that dynamically and in an automated fashion. That data can be exploited as an investigation. You can use that to build upon previous investigations. And quite honestly, even if you have different products in your environment, you can use that to improve those products as well.
Yeah.
So that's the criticality of intelligence applied to integration.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Now,
absolutely.
Our viewers and customers are probably want to hear more about this. What can they expect from the advanced threat group? What's up and coming there? What is it that all these customers should be excited about that we're doing at Cisco?
Oh, absolutely. We've got lots going on. We like to focus near term, mostly because we want to see things in our users' hands very quickly, and especially in this space, it's so dynamic. So a couple of big initiatives. In the next month and a half, you should start seeing very lightweight workflows being built across our entire portfolio. So whether you're in AMP or Endpoints Console, you're working on analysis in ThreatGrid, or maybe you're in Cisco Umbrella looking at DNS traffic, or maybe you're down on StealthWatch on an appliance in your environment. Or from there, maybe you hop to the next-gen IPS platform, right? You're on the FMC. The goal here is very lightweight incident response driven workflows that will follow you between device. So think of it almost as your analyst notepad, right?
Yep.
So as a responder, I'm working on an event. I grab some observables that I think are important. I annotate it. I make some notes. I decide that, based on the alert I'm seeing, I want to escalate it to a tier 2 person. I can do that from within that platform. When that tier 2 person, analyst, receives that investigation, he might want to go and start it, say, in Umbrella. He can open up that investigation within that floating panel, within Umbrella, do a level of analysis on it, determine whether or not he wants to block the artifacts that were provided previously to him, domains, for example, and from there move on to another product. All the while, building the investigation, building, the list of potentially compromised hosts of artifacts and associated artifacts, right? Whether or not they were seen on the device or not, but they're associated with the actual infection. And then, and so regardless of the product he's in, he can take either, the investigative action or remediation type action, close out that investigation and generate a report. That's one thing. That's really near term, low cost, high impact to the user, right? And the goal there is really to help streamline the workflows for the small organizations out there and really just do a lot of the heavy lifting for them.
Yep.
What else you will see is a larger initiative across the security business group as a whole, where we're looking to drive, the security operations or the security operations center investigative model at a larger a larger scale, right? So
okay.
think visibility, what I mentioned earlier,
Yep.
but across the entire portfolio. And this will tie into sort of your response orchestration and automation, right? Various courses of action and playbooks associated with products and data. The ability to add your own intel, not just Cisco specific
Yep.
intel, right? So perhaps you have a feed or a data source from a third party, and you want to integrate that. Perhaps you have other products and SIMs that you're using to gather information from. You can both feed those devices or pull information from those devices. A larger security operations push across the portfolio,
Yep.
deeper integrations, and a lot of near-term, very tactical and useful capabilities and features within the security portfolio. So,
Great stuff, great stuff. And of course, for more details of the advanced threat solutions that we have, customers and online viewers can just check out our website, right?
Absolutely, yeah, it's all online.
Cool.
All online.
Thank you, Dean. It's a pleasure to have a CTO in
appreciate
our
it.
session. Thank you for your inputs. And thank you, everyone, for watching. Stay online. We still have a few more broadcast sessions throughout the day and until tomorrow. And this session is going to be video on demand. So we'll see you, and bye for now.